sure about that?
QFusion. Let's get it in.
All right, let's make sure everything's all set here. Okay. Got this going. God damn it. Make sure the live is up. Let's see. This is going to come across on my thing. Oh, it is. Oh, fuck. All right, cool. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is your boy QFusion Reacts. I was feeling a little bored at home. Got to work a little bit early, so I figured I'd make a video. It's been a while. Sorry for the shaking of the desk. It's a little light. So today, right, first brings first, I want to pay my respects to Kevin Samuels. If you guys don't know, because I know a lot of people, there are a lot of people that don't watch YouTube. There are a lot of people that don't, sort of don't tune into like the manosphere and things like that. But a very, important figure, in the conversation of, intersexual dynamics passed away. Kevin Samuels, I believe he was in his late 50s. And this guy, while I don't idolize people, because obviously, we're all human, to a degree, right? So if, at the same time, you still want to make sure you pay homage to those, that are doing the good, the good deed and having the good, essentially fighting the good fight, right? And that's who Kevin Samuels was. I think a lot of people, had him sort of confused as far as what his agenda was and what his overall goal was in the sake of his conversation with the opposite gender. And honestly, I think if you take a step back, and you actually listen to the content as opposed to watching, 10-second clips, what you'll see is that he's someone who very much so wanted men and women to be together, right? Because, essentially we are better together than apart, right? And I think that's the power of his message. And I think he's just essentially just keeping people to the fire, men and women alike. And I think that's somebody that you may not like or agree with everything he says, but you can certainly respect someone who takes the time out to to speak the truth, even though you may get chastised for it. I mean, I think we'll be having an episode on the other channel later on this week. I believe tomorrow we'll try to film that, where we'll give our take on sort of the atmosphere of what's going on with all that. And yeah, so I just want to take a moment to wish him a safe passage into the afterlife, right? And I really do want to pay my respects to his family, right? Because their son, husband, or ex-husband, father was someone who actually did leave a mark on this world, good or bad as it may be, right? And that's all essentially you can do at the end of the day. Live this life as if there's not another one. All right. Okay, so guys, now with that note, I want to kind of turn it into the topic for today, where we're going to be looking at. I mean, if you guys have seen this before, this is I think we at the other channel did a podcast on this, but I want to look at it from a different angle, right? Because in this day and age, right, And bear with me, right, as I sort of try to explain the goal for this episode. I want to, help you guys understand the reason why a lot of the things that me and my co-hosts do, this is the nature of the conversation, right? This is where debating has come in 2022, and this is essentially what you have waiting for you when you sort of bring up unpopular, you know, unpopular rhetoric, right? It's just it's a lot of sort of shaming language. It's a lot of insinuating. It's a lot of assuming, and you all know what assuming, stands for, right? So it's essentially, the conversations are very hard to have, and on a consistent basis. Anytime I post something that has to do with intersexual dynamics, this is the sort of energy that we're met with, right? So I want to kind of help you guys, see, what we see, and this is essentially what's going on, right? Like you can't have a conversation these days without being met with this type of energy, even if you're, and I like to consider myself, I can't speak for my co-host, but I know for myself, I like to speak in a way that's, incredibly, I try to be as gentlemanly as possible, right? I return the energy that's given to me. But even when you do that, right, you still have those that consistently want to try to get you out of your frame, and put you in a position where you become disrespectful, right? So I think this was a great example of somebody, Jordan Peterson. If you don't know him, he's a well-acclaimed psychologist, professor from Canada. He does a lot of work on not just intersexual dynamics, as he'll talk about in the video. He does coaching for men and women on how to best utilize, how to create better opportunities for advancement in the workplace, as well as understanding, how to better maximize their potential, right? So yeah, he's been I think for the last 5 or so years now, he's basically made a splash for a whole host of different topics, from the wage gap, as we'll see, and also from certain things as men, why are men and women not getting along, and why are men and women not dating, right? So yeah, so I think what I want to do is, again, I want you guys to focus in on the interviewer, right? And I want you guys to notice the little things, right? I want you guys to take a second, take a step outside of the craziness that's going on right now, and I kind of want you to see the art of the conversation, right? And see how two parallels are sort of colliding here, right? And I want to see if you guys can pick up on some of the um on some of the agenda slash, agenda pushing, I should say, slash, instigation that goes on, slight instigation that goes on throughout the course of this conversation, right? All right, let's check it out.
Where you say there are whole disciplines in universities forthrightly hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern stroke neo-Marxist claim that Western culture in particular is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women. But then I want to put
minorities too.
Okay, sure. But I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
But that's
So
just
you
not
do
true,
you.
is it?
That's
I mean, that
absolutely
9% pay gap, that's a gap between median hourly earnings between men and women.
But there's
That
multiples.
exists.
See, this is something, right? This is I want you guys to pay attention to this, right? So provides her stats, right? And good for her, she came prepared, right? As you should, or prepared to the best of her knowledge, right? But then he offers her something, right? And I don't even know if she really, really took a second to even consider, right, where that point might lead to, right? He provided that, when it comes to the pay gap, it can factor in, right? Because I think he actually gives her a mulligan, right? That it essentially, yeah, that it does factor in, that women are paid less, right? But there's also a multivariate analysis, right? And I don't even know if I really even need to dive into what that means, but essentially, broad scheme, that essentially means that there is a whole host of factors that are taken into consideration when describing where that pay gap comes from, right? But instead of taking a step back, right, and I know she has her talking points set up, but instead of taking a step back and more so diving on the multivariate analysis, point, right, as she asks, she's already jumping to the thought that no, that just can't be. Like, I don't know. Like, I think there's, as an interviewer, you gotta take a step out. Take a step out your shoes. I think she's trying to be a champion, a white knight, and no pun intended. And and this is sort of the energy that you'll see throughout the course of the video. Let's tune in.
Yeah, but there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like, if you're a social scientist worth your salt, you never do a univariate analysis. Like, you say, well, women in aggregate are paid less than men. Okay, well, then we break it down by age, we break it down by occupation, we break it down by interest, we break it down by personality.
But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top, because that's what's skewing that gender pay gap, isn't it? You're saying, well, that's just a fact of
No,
life.
I'm saying
Women
it
aren't
doesn't
necessarily
matter.
going to get.
She does this a lot, right? Where she'll continually say that you're saying, or what you're saying is, or what you're listen, right? Listen, so that way you don't have to continually keep putting words in his mouth, right? This is something that bothered me quite heavily about this, is that, like, the man, like, consistently had to, and I applaud him for staying so stoic, and and he's sort of brushing off the constant need. But I know for me, as a, in my own right, it is extreme. That is probably one of the most, not saying disrespect, but probably the most, frustrating things that you can experience within the course of a debate, is when someone continually puts words in your mouth just so that way they can push across, their baseless question, right? And so it just leads down a straw man, where you have to actually, you have to gear into, okay, here we go. This is why XYZ, and on forward, right?
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying
I'm
it's
saying
a
there are
fact of life.
multiple reasons for it.
Yeah, but
that
those
aren't taken
why
into
should
account.
women put up with those reasons? Why should
should
women
women
be
put up
content?
What why does this, the sensationalism?
I'm
Not
not saying
to
that
get
they
to the
should
top.
put up with it. I'm saying that the claim
And most
that
don't.
the wage gap between men and women is only due to sex is wrong. And it is wrong. There's no doubt about that. The multivariate analysis have been done. So
Well,
I can give you an
you keep
example.
on talking about
Wait a second.
multivariate
Let
analysis.
me give you an
No.
example.
I'm saying that 9% pay gap
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
That's a gap between men and women. I'm not saying why it exists, but it exists. Now,
Yeah, but
if
you
you're
have
a
to say
woman,
why
that
it
seems.
Do you want a cookie? Do you want a cookie? Great. Like, if you, it's like she's trying to, like, it's very, interview-esque, right? Interviewee-esque, interviewer-esque, like, right, where you again, you're pigeonholing. Like, she's trying to get him to say that the pay gap exists, right? And then from there, she wants him to basically say that the pay gap exists because of gender, right? Which is disingenuous, right? But she continually will prod this point just to make it, so she can get that buffer for her, her constituents, or for her viewers, right? Probably the
really
female.
unfair.
You have to say why it exists.
But do you agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman,
Not necessarily.
and on average you're getting paid 9% less than a man, that's not fair, is it?
It depends on why it's happening.
This is something I see a lot, right? And I'm sorry if I keep stopping, right? And it bothers me, with this sort of this victimization mentality that I see that a lot of people in the West have, not just women, but also men, right? A lot of, people in the West, they have this, incessant need to make things all about, like, right, wrong, is it okay, is it, is this fair, is it unfair, that I continually keep seeing this, that being a talking point, right? When you're describing something that's, and essentially it has nothing to do with whether or not, for all matter of a fact, fuck how you feel about it, right? Like, there are some things that happen in life that, are just unfair, right? Look at what's going on in the Ukraine, right? Like, is it fair that, their country has to get basically rip rotted, inside and out, while people in America get to, for the most part, right, get to live, seamlessly, like throughout their course of their day without any thought of a missile, flying through their home. No, it's not fair, right? But these things happen, right? So if we're going to go to every argument and try to make it all about sensationalism and say, well, this is happening here, so it's not fair, right? Can we agree on that? Well, what if we're going to continually do that? Then we're not going to get anywhere, guys, right? Because then it's always going to come back to who's suffering more. And if we're doing that, then, well, you're not essentially playing a genuine
I'll
game.
give you an example. Okay. There's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite. And agreeable people get paid less than less agreeable people.
Oh, for those tuning in, as I mentioned, if you didn't catch in the beginning, what we're doing is a review on the gender pay gap interview with Jordan Peterson and Cathy Newman, where he talks about how the pay gap based upon gender simply is a myth. What I'm trying to do is give a little bit more insight as far as interview tactics that you can see that sort of symbolize how people debate in 2022 and why it is so problematic to have conversations nowadays about anything. You talk about intersexual dynamics and all common sense and all all sort of logic and reason go out the window, and you see a lot of sensationalism, right? And what you'll see a lot in this video is that.
For the same job.
Comment what you if you've seen this before and give me your thoughts.
Some women are not more agreeable than men.
Yes, that's true, but that's right. And some women get paid more than men.
So you're saying that by and large, women are too agreeable.
But you don't want to talk about those women, right? You see how she just completely skipped past that.
Pay rises.
I'm saying that that's one component of a multivariate equation that predicts salary. It accounts for maybe 5% of the variance, something like that.
So surely the
you need
answer...
we need about another 18 factors, one of which is gender. And there is prejudice, there's no doubt about that, but it accounts for a much smaller proportion of the variance in the pay gap than the radical feminists claim.
Okay, so rather than deny...
Take a second. God damn. Take a goddamn second. Yo, he gives you that. Take a beat, absorb it. Right. I see this so many times, right? Like if you come back to somebody, they give you a breakdown, right? They give you a lot. I know it's a lot to chew on. Take a fucking second. I know you don't have a lot of time in that studio, right? Because you got to get in and out with this interview. But holy shit. Like if there was ever a I'm not listening, but I'm hearing you, but I'm not listening face, that's this woman, right? Like holy shit. Like she has a lot that she needs to say.
Denying the pay gap exists, which is what you did at the beginning of this conversation, shouldn't you say to women, rather than being agreeable and not asking for a pay rise, go and ask for a pay rise? Make yourself disagreeable with your boss.
Oh, definitely, there's that. But I also didn't deny it existed. I denied it existed because of gender.
Okay.
See, because I'm very, very, very careful with my words.
So the pay gap...
As she's not.
You accept that. But you're saying... the pay gap between men and women exists. You're saying it's not because of gender, it's because women are too agreeable to ask for pay rises. So
that's one of the reasons.
Jesus, God. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Oh, that big word went right over your head. The big word went straight over your head. Multivariate analysis. That's not really essentially a word, but that phrase, went right over your head. Right? There are multiple reasons. It is not because of just agreeable. He just gave you one example. Okay, of those 18 factors, right? Shala, gonya.
Okay, one of the reasons. So why not get them to ask for a pay rise?
I've done that many, many times in my career.
And they just
counsel. Oh, they do it all the time. So one of the things that you do as a clinical psychologist is assertiveness training. So you might say, often you treat people for anxiety, you treat them for depression. And maybe the next most common category after that would be assertiveness training. And so I've had many, many women, extraordinarily competent women in my clinical and consulting practice. And we put together strategies for their career development that involve continual pushing, competing for higher wages, and often tripled their wages within a 5-year period.
And you celebrate that?
Of course.
So do you agree that you would be happy if that pay gap was eliminated completely, because that's all the radical feminists are saying.
It would depend on how it was eradicated and how the disappearance of it was measured.
You're saying if
You
it's at the
can't- you
cost
can't-
of men, that's a problem.
Oh, there's all sorts of things that it could be at the cost of. It could even be at the cost of women's own interests. So
Because they might not be happy if they get equal pay.
no, because it.
Oh my God. Oh man, this is rough, dude. This is rough, man. This is rough. Because they may not be happy that they get equal pay. Where did you leap to that? Ah, man.
Interfere with other things that are causing the pay gap that women are choosing to
Like
do.
having children.
Well, or choosing careers that actually happen to be paid less, which women do a lot of.
But why shouldn't women have the right to choose not to have children, or the right to choose those?
They
that
have the
They
right.
do. They can. Yeah, that's fine.
But
The
you're saying
fuck?
that makes them unhappy, by and large.
I'm saying that. No, I'm not saying that. And I actually haven't said that.
What? Where did you get that? Where did you get, guys? I really hope you're paying attention. Like this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like where did you? And this is what happens a lot. You'll give a point, right? You'll stay on track on the point. You'll stay straight on the. You'll mince your words. You'll make sure to cross your T's and dot your I's, and then somehow the conversation will be taken to. Well, if you had a daughter, how would she feel about this? Well, what does that have to do? Like, what, huh? How did we get from there to like from A to instead of going from A to B, we've gone now from A to 10 or A to W X Y Z. Like, how do we get here? Like, holy shit! Stop putting words in his mouth. Listen. Oh my God! It's like you're allergic.
So far,
You're saying it makes them miserable.
No, I
at the
said that
beginning.
what was making them miserable was
What?
having weak partners. That makes them miserable.
Right.
I would say
Oh, that made you smile though. That made you smile though, right? Is having weak partners. Oh. When he shits on men, that makes you smile. That makes you nice and bright in the face. Yeah. Oh yeah. You go ahead. You tell him, right? Yeah. That's me even in a heartbeat. She's sitting there herself like, yeah, I know. That's why I only choose strong men. Yeah. No weak men over here. Yeah. But you champion that, but you can't possibly fathom, that the gender that the pay gap doesn't exist because of gender though. Gotcha.
women around the age of
Got it.
say between 28 and 32 have a career family crisis that they have to deal with. And I think that's partly because of the foreshortened time frame that women have to contend with. Like women have to get the major pieces of their life put together faster than men, which is also partly why men aren't under so much pressure to grow up. So because for the typical woman, she has to have her career and family in order pretty much by the time she's 35, because otherwise the options start to run out. And so that puts a tremendous amount of stress on women, especially at the end of their 20s.
I think I take issue with the.
See, and this is why I like Jordan Peterson, right? Is because it's not just because obviously he says a lot of things that sound good, right? There a lot of the things that he says, right, are quantifiable, right? You can then go back, you can take a look, do your own research, and you can see the trends for yourself, right? And I don't think, and this is why it's very odd to me how people can full blown disagree, with some of the talking points that he brings up. I don't, that pressure, right, that I know is on women, to be able to, and I've seen it on different social media gaps. I've seen it on different posts or gifts or wherever I have you, that put that pressure on women to do it. I mean, I've gotten slack myself from, basically telling, agreeing with posts, well, not agreeing, or maybe even disagreeing with posts that say you shouldn't, put out messages out there that just make it seem as though, just put off having babies till whenever. I don't know. I don't think that, that point that he just made is, it has no merit, right? I don't know. You guys let me know in the comment section, whether or not it's this is something that, you've either heard before, or if it's something that, you think is far-fetched.
The idea of the typical woman, because
Let's see how
all
she
women are different.
reacts to that.
And that's why I want to just put another quote to you from the book.
Well,
You
they're
say,
different in some ways and the same in others.
Okay, you say women become more vulnerable when they have children.
Oh,
And
yes.
you talked in one of your YouTube interviews about crazy harpy sisters. So, a simple question. Is gender equality a myth in your view? Is that something that's just never going to happen?
It depends on what you mean by equality. Now,
Being
if you
treated
mean
fairly,
men and women,
getting the same opportunities?
fairly, we could get to a point where people were treated fairly or more fairly. I mean, people are treated pretty fairly in Western culture already, but we can.
Well, they're really not, though, are they? I mean, otherwise, why would there only be 7?
Here we go. Here we go. Here goes your lens. The lens is coming.
Women running FTSE 100 companies in the UK. Why would there still be a pay gap, which we've discussed as length? Why are women at the BBC saying that they're getting paid illegally less than men to do the same job?
Well,
that's not fair, is
let's
it?
go to the first question. They're both complicated questions. Seven women. Repeat that one. There's
7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies in the UK.
Well,
I mean,
the first question might be, why would you want to do that?
Why would a man want to do it?
Well,
there's a lot of
See, this is such a, oh man. Like I had a conversation today, or if you want to call it a conversation, in this group chat that I'm in, and it was about sort of why men aren't as romantic from the beginning as they are. That's essentially how I interpreted the repost, right? And then this woman, comes on, and she's, she then goes to say, because I gave my point, so me, I talk my shit. And she goes to say that, well, I'm gay, so I definitely know what women want. Okay. So then my first question is have you dated a man? Sorry, have you dated a woman as a man before? Well, I have two kids by a man, so I think I know what I'm talking about, right? Like, what? 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 This is essentially the logic that we work with, right? When we have these conversations, guys. I can't make this shit up, right? This is something that I have to laugh at, guys. And I think a lot of the times, and this is more so for the men, right? When you're having these conversations with girls, because I really would advise you not to have, not to argue and debate with, women that have boyfriends or husbands. I mean, let their husbands and boyfriends handle those conversations, or not handle those conversations as they may, right? But essentially, when you're talking about these things, guys, you very quickly, can see where the disconnect happens, because a lot of women think that men and women are the same, right? I mean, look at the way she automatically turned this question into a, well, why would, if there's only 7 women, he goes to say, well, why would you want to do that? Her retort is only, well, why would a man do that? Sugar pie honey bun. Men and women are not the same. We have different burdens of performance. We have different sort of, due to our biological statures and due to our makeup, there are certain things that we can do, right, that you can't. I think that it's, I always find it funny when they're like, well, that's a double standard. Okay, yeah, there's double standards all over the place, right? Like when you're walking on a first date and your man is walking in front, is going to hold the door open for you, you expect, right, for the most part, unless you were raised in the fucking caves, you expect your man to, the man that you're dating or the man you're going on a date with, to open the door for you. Why? Because you're a woman, right? And because you love chivalry. Well, what is chivalry? Chivalry is essentially being treated like you're better than, right? Take a man taking off his jacket, putting his jacket on the floor when it's raining outside, so over a puddle, so that a girl that's his jacket. It's his jacket that he probably paid a good amount of penny for that jacket, and yeah, he's rolling it on the floor because your feet need to walk on that water, right? Essentially saying that you're higher than thee. That is what chivalry is, right? You're getting preferential treatment only because of your gender. Okay, so I think we need to take a step back, right, and look at some of the ways that people like this woman, right, and people that come into your comments and inboxes, you have to be very careful how you you sort of uh maneuver around conversations. And the first question you always, I would say, if you're ever going to try it, right, I mean, if you're going to say, hey, I got the energy, I got the time today, ask them, do you think men and women are the same? And if they say yes, then bro, end the conversation, right? Because unless you're trying to court them, unless you're, and I wouldn't even advise that you speak on this with someone that you want to court, because it can go left very quickly, right? But if you're just saying fuck it for the shits and giggles, and you got the energy to actually have that conversation, then ask that, and you will see where the mood of the combo will go from there.
Money is an interesting
There's a
job,
certain number of men, although not that many, who are perfectly willing to sacrifice virtually all of their life to the pursuit of a high-end career. So they'll work. These are men that are very intelligent. They're usually very, very conscientious. They're very driven. They're very high energy. They're very healthy. And they're willing to work 70 or 80 hours a week, nonstop, specialized at one thing to get to the top.
So you're saying women are just more sensible. They don't want that because it's not a nice life.
I'm saying that's part of it, definitely. And so I work.
So you don't think there are barriers in their way that prevent them getting to the top?
Oh,
of
there
those
are some
companies?
barriers, yeah, like men, for example. I mean, to get to the top of any organization is an incredibly competitive enterprise. And the men that you're competing with are simply not going to roll over and say, please take the position.
So let me
It's
come back to my
absolute
question.
all-out warfare.
Is gender equality a myth?
I don't know what you mean by the question. Men and women aren't.
No, it's all right, man. Well, this is essentially, is it a myth? Come on, man. Come on, what the fuck? Oh,
the same,
man.
and they won't be the same. That doesn't mean they can't be treated fairly.
Is gender equality desirable?
If it means equality of outcome, then almost
She's gonna try
certainly
to keep going with this point.
That's already been demonstrated in Scandinavia, because in
What do you
Scandinavia,
mean by that? Equality of outcome is undesirable.
well, men and women won't sort themselves into the same categories if you leave them alone to do it off their own accord. I've already seen that in Scandinavia. It's 20 to 1 female nurses to male, something like that. It might not be quite that extreme, and approximately the same male engineers to female engineers. And that's a consequence of the free choice of men and women in the societies that have gone farther than any other societies to make gender equality the purpose of the law. Those are ineradicable differences. You can eradicate them with tremendous social pressure and tyranny. But if you leave men and women to make their own choices, you will not get equal outcomes.
Right, so you're saying that anyone who believes in equality, whether you call them feminists, call them whatever you want to call them, should basically give up because it ain't going to happen.
Only if they're aiming at
I gotta find them.
Nani? Quality of outcome.
I just don't know, man.
So you're saying give people equality of opportunity, that's
Yes.
fine.
Not only fine, it's
Yes.
eminently desirable for
Yes.
everyone, for individuals and for society.
But
Yes.
still women aren't going to make it. That's what you're really
It
saying.
depends on your measurement techniques.
What is this need to be like men, to be in these arenas, right? But then when you're able to come into these arenas, and I don't want to go into a thing about this because, right, I said that's not sort of the point of the video today, right? I didn't want to dive into it because obviously it's been debunked already. We all know that the gender pay gap, the wage gap does not exist only because of gender, right? So I don't need to push that button home. Otherwise it'll be like an echo chamber with, Jordan Peterson sentiments here. I find it incredibly alarming that it's like this need, right, to be, and to run through life like men, right, to earn some type of respect like men. It's just like it's weird. It's fucking weird, guys. Like where is all this vigor coming from, right? Like I don't get it, man. Like these talking points are just so, oh my god, man. I applaud him.
They're doing just fine in medicine. In fact, there are far more female physicians than there are male physicians. There are lots of disciplines that are absolutely dominated by women. Many disciplines. and they're doing great. So
let me put something else to you from the book. You say the introduction of the equal pay for equal work argument immediately complicates even salary comparison beyond practicality for one simple reason. Who decides what work is equal? It's not possible. So the simple question is, do you believe in equal pay?
Oh, this is a pigeonhole question, man. Such an idiotic question. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be civil about this. Because she wants him to say, right, and he'll give his answer shortly, but she wants him to say, she's trying to, the interview tactics are underhanded, right? She wants him to say essentially that no, it doesn't. No. You shouldn't. No. Equal pay. No. Bad equal pay. No, like, come on, man. Like, based on what? Right? Because you honestly, I don't even think women want, and all his point is, and the only thing he's made is that there should be equal opportunity, right? But not equal outcome, right? Because I don't know what person, right? Unless you've been spoon fed your whole entire life, I do not know what, and I don't get what she can't understand about this is that you simply cannot, living in a world where everybody's guaranteed the same outcome simply because of what they may or may not do that is a troubling future to set, right? Sorry, a troubling precedent to set, right? Because that could mean that simply Lucy does 5 hours of work, Tom does 15 hours of work, but because of equal outcome, right, which is what a lot of people are looking for, just because of the fact that we got the same job, you want us to still get paid the same. That is ridiculous, right? Because let's flip that. Let's say Lucy's doing 15 hours and Tom's only working 5 hours. But because of the fact that you want everybody to be on the same playing field, you want to get treated and paid the same, even for hours worked less. If I'm Lucy, I would be fucking irate. Why would I want to get paid the same as Rob when he's working 10 hours less than me? That is ridiculous. Right? Do I want Rob to have the opportunity to get the same job as me, barring that he has the right qualifications and the right and meets the right parameters and skill level? Absolutely. Right? Regardless of his race, regardless of his gender. Yes, absolutely. Everybody should be provided equal opportunity. But to say that, we should all just be on the status quo just simply because of, oh, well, you're a woman, you need to just be in this arena. Come on in, even though you may have all these other factors that may, decide in. And even still, the reason why the wage gap does not really exist when you measure everything out on an equal playing field, you actually start to see that the gap lessens quite drastically. Even in a lot of more metropolitan areas, where are women that are out earning men? So why isn't that talked about? Right? Why isn't that conversation had? Why isn't this interviewer bringing up that? Well, I know why, because that's not essentially going to do right by her talking points, is it?
Well, I made the argument there. It's like, it depends.
So you don't believe in equal pay?
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Because a lot of people listen.
So you don't believe in equal pay?
Say, I mean, are we going back to the
That's
dark
because
ages
they're actually
here?
not listening.
The dark
listening
ages?
very carefully, and I'm hearing
You're not.
basically saying women need to just accept they're never going to make.
You're not. Because if that's your stance, if that's the comment that you're about to drop, like you spouting words like never, just accept, like. So what world do you live in? Because I know there are a lot of women at my job that make more than me. Right? And yeah, that's the way it should be. I don't really see anything wrong with that. If they have more qualifications, more certifications, more, more experience, right? They should absolutely make more than me. Like, if anything, I would be weirded out if they didn't. I'd be like, how the fuck did I get this shit then? Right? So yeah, I mean, and to think that a lot of men, I mean, hey, I can't speak for all men because I know there are men out there that probably think that women are the scum of the earth and that women are below them and all that nonsense, right? However, I'm not one of those, right? Again, I like Kevin Samuels, like Jordan Peterson, like a lot of these different guys. I wholeheartedly believe that men and women are better together than apart. right? But the sake of these conversations that we're seeing, right, this is exactly what pulls people apart. To base something as nuanced as the pay gap simply on gender creates this mythic war that we talk about on our other channel, right? Because we're what the like we you know it is not as simple as that. Come on, and then it's just this is the disingenuous nature that I'm speaking about, and then she's going to continue.
Take it on equal terms, equal outcomes is how you defined it.
No, I
If
didn't
I
say
was
that.
a
I
young
said that
woman
equal-
watching that, I would go, well, I might as well just go and play with my Cindy dolls
I
and give
didn't
up
say
trying
that.
at school because I'm not going to get the top job I want. Because
said
there's
that
someone
e-
sitting there saying it's not possible.
I
it's
said
not.
that
Does that
equal
make
outcomes
you
are
miserable?
desirable. That's what I said. It's a
Yeah,
bad
it's not
social
desirable.
goal. I didn't say that women shouldn't be striving for the top or anything like that, because I don't believe that for a second.
Striving for the top, but you're going to put all those hurdles in their way, as has been in their way for centuries, and that's
What is wrong? What about the? Oh my god, the sensationalism is like
It's over 9,000.
like this shit's crazy. Like this is insane, dude. Like what? The hurdles. So do you think guys that make it to the top of these Fortune 500 companies that you're speaking about, you think they just so happen to just waltz in the door and lock in these roles without any sort of trials and tribulations whatsoever? No, they just made it. They didn't have to compete against anybody. They didn't have to, they didn't have to put together a string of performance that showcased why they belong in the spot that they belong in. Like why is it why are women like this so allergic to competition, right? Like this is why a lot of women don't get allowed into those inner circles that they want to be in so bad. It's because you come with this attitude, right? You want to get treated like a man, but then you want to be treated at the same breath have preferable treatment because you're a woman. How can those two things coexist? Like if you want to be with the boys, then you'll see what the boys do, right? As long as they're being respectful to you, I don't see where the big problem is. But the Me Too movement and all these other movements make it very difficult for men to be how they normally are, when women come in the circles and then choose to uproot everything by basically saying, no, it's not okay for me. And then you wonder why you can't go to the golf outings, you can't go to the cigar room, you can't go to all these different venues where guys go to sit and mingle and talk and chop it up, right? If anything, I think the women that advance the best are the ones that know how to play that game, right? And do not victimize themselves. No, just something to think about, guys. I mean, if you're going to come into the arena with men, you have to be prepared to fight like a man, right? There's a reason why you want to be in that room and not in a room full of women. And if you are in a room full of women, there's a reason why those women are successful, because they're outsourcing, especially if the field that they're the industry that they're in is male dominated. Well, okay, well, guess who those females are competing against? Men. And what do they need to be like men? Ruthless, sometimes conniving, disagreeable, right? And sorry to say, a lot of these traits are not exactly feminine traits. So let's continue. We got a couple more minutes of this, and we'll take it out.
That's fine. You're saying that's fine.
No, I think I really
The
think
patriarchal
that's,
system
I really
is
think
just
that's
fine.
silly. I
The
do. I think
patriarchal
that's
system
silly.
is just
I
fine.
really do. I mean, look at your situation. You're
Oh.
hardly unsuccessful.
Yeah, and I have
How do
battled
you
quite
battle?
hard to get where I've got
Exactly.
to.
Good
So
for
that's
you.
okay. Battling is good. This is all
It's
about the fight.
inevitable.
Yes, that is the whole point of life. That is the whole point of life. Oh my god. Why didn't you just take a breath there? Holy fuck. We just I would have called this a breakthrough if I didn't see this, but this is amazing. This is amazing. Right? Yes, that is what life is about. It is about the fight. Right? That's why we make fun of trust fund babies that squander away their money because they don't have to fight, and yet they find ways to fuck it up. Right? That's why we don't respect people who are just given shit in life. Right? We respect the guys who go out there and get it, the women that go out there and get it. That is all a part of it. And if anything, if you had to battle through 100 more hurdles than someone else, I would say that's even fucking better. Shit, that makes for an amazing book. What the fuck, man? Where did we get in the world where we're fighting for what you want and going through the shit is such a like what the fuck? Like whatever happened to like the ending, being sweeter than the means because of all of the trials and tribulations that you went through to get to the finish line? Do you think Olympic people are basically putting those medals on their chest and saying, "Oh, yeah, I regret battling every day for this, racing 100 meets a year, you know what I mean, coming in last sometimes. I regret all of that just for me to get this one moment where I stand on top of everybody." Like, what? Yes, Cathy, if that is your name. That is, I believe it is. That is essentially what it's all about. And that's why men are in these arenas, because we are built for the fight. We know that if we're going to go into a room full of men, come with our A game. And if we do not, we are going to get our heads chopped off. It should not be any different for if a woman comes into a room full of men. She should have that same expectation. She is not going to get treated any differently. Her head will get chopped off if she does not perform. And if she is performing and she's not seeing the accolades or she's not seeing the appreciation or the love in her paycheck that she so thinks that she deserves, go fight for what you deserve, like men do. I needed a raise recently. Instead of me saying, "Oh, I'm good with what I'm getting paid now, I'm just gonna just keep it going," what did I do? I simply went to one of my managers and I asked him for a raise. Right? Like, I deserved it. I've been busting my ass, and I believe that was something that I deserve. So that's what you ask for. Whether or not you get it is irrelevant, because guess what? If you don't ask, you won't receive. So that is the whole point, right? And this is why a lot of women are, basically pissed off, because they're like, "Oh, well, I'm not getting." Well, go, because you're not going in there and like he's coaching women to do, they're not going in there and fucking demanding what they deserve. That's all part of the game.
You talk about men fighting. I mean, let me just put another thing to you from the book.
Why
You're
would
saying
you have to
real.
battle for a high quality position?
It's crazy.
Well, I notice in your book,
It's
you talk
crazy.
about real
Motherfuckers just,
conversations
excuse
between
me,
men
just skating in
containing,
this bitch.
quote, an underlying threat of physicality.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
What about real conversations between women? Is that something, or are we sort of too amenable and reasonable?
No, it's just that the domain of physical conflict is sort of off limits for you.
Well, you
It's
just said
rather
that I
unfortunate.
fought to get where I've got.
Yeah, but
What does that make me?
Well, I
a
don't
proxy
imagine-
man or
I
something?
don't imagine that you, to some degree, I suspect you're not very agreeable.
So that's the thing. Successful women, I'm not very agreeable.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you certainly
Successful women basically have to wear the trousers. They have to sort of become men to
Yes.
succeed, is what you're saying.
Well, if they're
I've had
Yes,
fights
if they're going to
with
compete with men,
them,
yes.
I'm
against
a man.
men,
Yes.
certainly masculine
Yes,
traits are
very
helpful.
easy.
I mean, one of the things I do
Very easy.
in my counseling practice, for example, when I'm consulting,
Women, so they're going out doing the shopping, but that is changing.
they make all the
what I
consumer
want to ask you.
decisions.
Okay, so
The
what I want
market
to
is
ask you.
driven by women, not men.
Right.
Okay, and if you're a lawyer
And they
in
still
Canada,
pay more for the same sort of goods. That's been proven. That
Because
men,
you
if buy
guys determine the
a blue
market.
bicycle helmet, it's going to cost less than a pink one. Anyway, we'll come on to that.
it's partly because men are less agreeable. Right, so they won't put up with it.
I want to ask you, is it not
She didn't want to
desirable
answer
to
no.
have some of those female traits you're talking about? I'd say that's a generalization, but you've used the words female traits. Is it not desirable to have some of them at the top of business? I mean, maybe there wouldn't have
They
been
don't predict
a
success.
banking crisis.
They don't
that
predict
happened.
success in the workplace. The things that predict success in the work.
Oh man. All right. I mean, he's about to drop some knowledge for her there. Obviously, we've come to, I think we've seen enough, guys. I think you've seen enough of the antics, right? Just my takeaway, just for you guys to finish off the episode. When having these conversations, guys, there's got to be a meeting of the minds, right? Like if you're genuinely trying to have this a conversation, there's got to be truths, right? One truth that's agreed upon across all planes, right? We cannot have this where it's like, oh, well, it's a generalization for, excuse me, we can't have this, you know, we can't have a structured, productive debate if we can't agree on universal truths, right? Um, and so, and I think a lot of people, you know, they take that notion very, lightly, and I think that is why a lot of debates or a lot of conversations in social media or even in person, why they deteriorate very fast, is because people are unable to agree on universal truths, not my truth, your truth, what my experience has shown me, what this is. No, the truth, right? And I think a lot of times these agendas are sort of piercing through what people know as to be universal truths and are creating this sort of warped sense of reality, that then people then try and, you know, attribute to their experience and say, oh, well, you know, that's true. No, I've experienced that in my life, so that must be the norm, right? And that's not exactly a very, insightful way to go about, you know, seeing the way that the world really works, right? Because if in all actuality the world is a very cruel, dark, and cold place, right? And there are a lot of unfavorable double standards and, what's the other word, double standards and, privileges, right, for males and females alike, right? Females, you know, this is a very basic one. Females are able to go on OnlyFans. If you're, especially if you're average looking, you can go on OnlyFans, and if you have a good enough social media following, you can make great money, $5,000 a month minimum. But if an average looking guy goes on OnlyFans, there's no way he's going to be able to make that much money showing off his meat, even with the six pack, right? You know, so we have to stop trying to make the exceptions the rules. And I think a lot of the times, a lot of people want to continually acknowledge the exception, right? Because they want to make sure that those people are being heard, right? That's the big thing with this generation. Everybody wants to be heard, right? But the problem is that, sorry, you know, sorry to say, but those people's, right, their very rare like experience when looking at the grand scheme of things, because the world is all about generalizations. But if we continually keep looking at those that are the exception and say, well, that's something we need to consider. Is it really though? If something happens 25%, 30% of the time, but what we see is 70%, 75, 80, 85% of the time, right? That this is going to be your outcome. At what point do you start to say, okay, I'm more concerned about the 85? You do that every day, right? When you're crossing the street, is there a high likelihood that at a red light where you're able to cross, that someone is going to hit you, right? They're going to hit you in the crosswalk. No, there's not a high likelihood of that, right? Which is why when you get the cross symbol, you cross. Now, are there people that are extremely afraid of this, and this is why they don't cross streets unless it's like unbelievably clear, like there's no cars coming? Yes, but are those people common? No, right? And that's why a lot of people cross them shits anyway. If anything, people cross when it's even still cars on the road, because they know the likelihood of them getting hit by a car from crossing the street is not that high. So come on. So thank you guys for whoever joins in on this. I know I did. This is a live, but I will be putting this out soon, once I put my pizzazz on and put my intro and outro in there. But yeah, thank you guys for whoever, you know, listens in for the duration of this video. You guys are amazing. I get a lot of great feedback. You know, whenever, you know, I do get people tuning in, and this shit's fun. I'm enjoying this shit. You know, it's good to be able to talk about some of this craziness, right? All right. Well, this is your boy QFusion Reacts. Thank you for joining me.
Are you sure about that?
QFusion.